Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Boom.
Guten Tag, comic fans. Welcome to a show on Tuesday with your Silverline crew. I'm your host, Tim TK, and also we have a special guest we'll get to in a secret. It's a surprise. Don't look at his name. It's on the screen right in front of you. Joined, as always, by Mr. Q616, Quentin Bedwell, in the Prime Reality.
That's right. The Prime Reality. A little too much reality for me sometimes.
Some days.
I know. That's why I'm an absurdist. Nothing is abstraction. Reality is what you make of it.
Yep.
And also by Jose Fuentes.
I don't know any of these people. Never met them.
I don't think that'll hold up in the court of law, but there you go.
Right?
We do actually have two special guests. One's a limited time special guest. We have our Chief Cat Wrangler, Roland Mann.
Hello, everyone.
Right.
I'm really just here to say hi to Mark and then bail.
And we also have Mark. Mark, tell us about yourself, your name, your works, where we can find you, your regular purchase at 7-Eleven.
Coca-Cola Slurpee. Let's lead with that.
There you go.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm Mark Pellegrini. I'm the writer for Kamen America, Black Ops USAGI, and some horror stories that have been published in Cursova Pulp Magazine. But I'm happy to be here. I've known Roland for a few years. We tend to hit the same cons here in Arkansas and sometimes I think Texas maybe. So I was happy that you were able to invite me on. We've had you on our channel, the Bunderdome, a couple times too. So
Yep.
Now I
Yep.
get
So
to be on the other side of the screen.
yeah. So yeah, I've been anxious to reach out to you and get you on here. So
Well, thanks for having
Tim,
me
can
on. I wanted to basically ask you guys a bunch of questions about some weird black and white 80s comics that I've been buying. I'm like,
Yes.
man, do I know anybody old enough to remember these things? Tell me about them, because the internet doesn't seem to be turning up any info.
Yeah, I am gonna have to dig through my boxes and see if I can find some. I know we were talking about it before we started. I know I've got some Solson comics, and I am 99% sure I still have those. You know, how to publish your own comic. I want to say it was either 2 or 3 issues. It was a little mini series.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I had to open up these books. So mine specifically was I bought all those Solson publications. The Ninja Turtles teach you martial arts in a comic book, and it's really embarrassing miniseries. That's the one that's notorious because they spelled Raphael wrong on the cover. They spelled it with an F instead of a PH.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
that's
good.
funny.
Yeah,
That
this
is
was
gold.
86. So like right before Eastman and Laird, struck their deal with Playmates Toys and Fred Wolf for the cartoon and everything. So like this was the best licensing that I guess Eastman and Laird could do in '86, like this and I guess the Palladium RPG. So they had these things going on with Gary Brodsky's company Solson, and I'm just like, man, what the heck are these?
Yeah, I have to get Curtis to look at those if they're teaching karate, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's the kung fu master.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tim, I don't know if you have a plan, but I wanted to tell the story of actually how Mark and I met.
Perfect.
All right, cool.
The idea for this show is going to be a little more loosey-goosey. If we get into craft, so be it, but probably just talking about, as creators, what we're all enjoying recently, since that's kind of what we gravitated towards in our email.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Roland, this is a family show. So don't be going dark or,
There's no darkness. Actually, talking about craft, Mark is definitely one you should hit up because I know he did you participated in a writer's thread of videos. I forget who was doing those, but you put my name in for editor, and I showed it up on one of the last streams they did. I feel bad now that I can't remember it.
That's okay because I can't remember either.
Okay. Okay. So I met Mark, and I don't remember exactly the year, but probably 16 or 17, maybe.
Something like that. I think was that Conway, maybe.
It wasn't Conway. It was a little Paragould.
Yeah, Paragould. That's right.
Yeah. So my family lives in northeast Arkansas in a little town called Piggott, Arkansas. Population about 3,000, right? And one July, I tend to go visit my family on July 4th. And I just happened to notice that Paragould was having a comic convention. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are the chances? This town is about 30 minutes from where my parents live. I said, so what are the chances that there's a Comic Con there at the same time I'm going to be visiting my family? And so I reached out to them and said, hey, my family's in the area. I'm going to be there anyway. Are you looking for any additional guests? And immediately I got an invite and so made my plans to go to Paragould. Well, somebody else was there. Was Mitch Faust there? You remember Mitch Faust?
Mitch Faust, I think he might have been.
The painter,
Man, so we do 10 shows a year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So I think Mitch Faust was there. So Mitch was the only one that I knew going into the show. So Mitch Faust is an awesome painter from the Memphis area. For those of you who've backed our stuff before, I don't know if I have one handy. He's the guy who did our gorgeous mouse on our mouse trading card. And I don't. Oh yes, I do. Here I have one. He's the guy who did this. So
Very nice.
So yeah,
Nice.
so that's Mitch Faust. So I've known Mitch for a bunch of years. So and it's Paragould, Arkansas. It wasn't very big. You guys were sitting right beside Paragould, right beside Mitch. So I would go down there and wander next to Mitch and talk. And I kept kind of eyeing you guys over there. You're like, I don't know who these guys are, right? Then I don't remember what you were doing at the time, but Tim was with you, and it was very, manga looking. And I know this is one of the things you guys are going to talk about, but I don't know much about manga, but I saw you guys sitting there. So I stepped over, introduced myself, and we chatted a little bit, and the show went on. And then what happened is we all went out to dinner and commenced to talking. And me and Tim and Mark realized that we had so many things in common. A lot of the things that we talked about that night were like, you, me too. And so we got, I thought anyway, Mark hopefully won't disagree. I thought we got along swimmingly. And
you had me at Malibu Comics.
That's right. We talked a lot of Malibu Comics and all kind of stuff, but we had, I don't even remember, to be honest with you. I hope they're not listening. I don't remember the show that well, but I absolutely remember the dinner that we had. And that
I remember leaving the show with you, and the first thing we saw when we left was a pasture full of cows.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Yep. It's that kind of show.
Yeah. Welcome to Arkansas, right? Welcome to conventions in Arkansas. So that's kind of how we met. And then I've just been friends with he and Tim since then, and kind of watched as they've wandered in and out of one controversy and get out of the controversy, and they just keep plugging away and making comics and doing an awesome job at it.
Thanks. That means a lot, because we were reading like your books back in the day, and like when we met you, were like, oh man, you did the Street Fighter comic back in the 90s. Like, oh, it's awesome. So no, it means a lot hearing that, man. Thanks.
Yeah. You guys are rocking it, and it excites me to see you guys doing it.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my story, Tim.
Perfect. And for those of you watching, different Tim. Okay. All right. We're going to be kind of so the way we like to start off our shows is we ask all the creators what they have been enjoying recently this last week. But you kind of mentioned that you're kind of going down a deep end in terms of some niche content. So probably go down some trenches on what all we're exploring.
And I'm going to leave and watch you guys.
What?
I still don't tell anybody. I still have grading to do.
Oh.
Yeah. So
stuff.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I know. And I did it to myself. I made myself behind because I didn't do anything over the weekend. And so now I put myself in a crunch.
Do you grade like we do multiple guest questions, abacadabra for as you go through assignments?
No, I've been telling him he's got to get some Scantrons. He won't do it.
Yeah. Look at Jeff. Yeah. Well, I will say this. Tim might remember the test that he took. I'll just put it this way: there are more multiple choice answers on the test now than there were when he took it. The computer grades the multiple choice questions. I have to grade the fill in the blank ones by hand.
You got to get a grad assistant for that.
Well, I wish. I don't think I haven't asked, but they look at me and they laugh. Ha! No, sorry. Yeah,
I feel bad for some of those portfolio instructors because everything they do is just open ended.
Well, I'm actually teaching a portfolio class this month, and the thing about it is I have to go through it because it's not a class I normally do, so I literally have to try to stay one step ahead of all the students.
Oh yeah.
So when they ask me a question, I can go, let me look that up for you.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with the full sales system, the portfolio for the writing program is essentially like the grade wise. We don't really have grades like junior freshman, but essentially it's our semi-annual capstone where it's like, all right, you learned so much, create it, defend it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna bail. Mark, thanks again. Appreciate you, and you guys keep rocking.
Hey, thanks, man.
Hi, boss.
I see you rolling.
Hey, man.
Yeah, that's a great sign. Roland's like, here's a story of how I met Mark. And because I know Mark, I'm getting out of here. See?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm leaving now.
He's just worried we'll end up going even further off the rails. My first memory of meeting Roland is actually I was going through his class, and we were talking about his credits, and like why he's qualified to teach this class essentially. And then he mentioned like he worked on the MechWarrior BattleTech series, and then I, being a diehard mecha fan and super into MechWarrior, immediately took the class off the rails for the remainder of our first meeting.
That is not surprising.
Yes. I mean, MechWarrior is so good. All right. So first, a little bit of housekeeping. If you backed the Kickstarter for Wolf Hunter or Sirens #1, check your emails. You got a survey from Kickstarter. Make sure you get your address in there and the name for the thank you page. Mention any additional things in the add-ons if you ordered them, because you want to make sure that you get the right package to the right address. Otherwise, we'll be sending you angry emails, or at least our package will.
And if you don't get it in, I've already given them my address for them to send your stuff to my house.
Exactly. Perfect. All right. So the way we typically structure our opening segment here is we go through and just kind of talk about what we've been enjoying this last week, media-wise, so watching, reading, listening, playing, what have you. So we'll start it off with before we, and we can use this chance to get really deep into it if you want to just then make that entire show, which I'm absolutely down for. If you got some strange things you want to ask questions about, like I've been into this, I don't have experience with this. So we'll start with Mark. We talked in the emails before. You're getting into some deep cuts as far as old comics are going, but also some manga as well. But what else have you been enjoying?
So, like, as for what I've been reading lately, like, I don't read a lot of new stuff, honestly. So Michael Tierney, he owned the comic shop here in Little Rock. He retired and closed down. Now he's a city councilman. He still does some mail order comics, but I haven't been reading much like hot off the presses stuff. So instead, I'm catching up on the classics.
Sure.
I finally got around to reading that adaptation of Dracula that Dick Giordano and Roy Thomas started in the 70s for like the Dracula Lives magazine. And then that got canceled, and then they didn't finish it until like 2005, where they just like got brought back to do the final half of the adaptation. And I read that one recently, and it was really good. You know, obviously I've read the book Dracula, and I've seen like all 10,000 movie adaptations. But Thomas did an amazing job adapting all the meat of the story. Most of the stuff the movies cut out, he got that stuff straight from the book, and he put it right. Even like the really esoteric stuff that's almost irrelevant, he put that in there. And Giordano's art was superb. And I think it's I'm not going to say it's one of the last things he worked on before he passed away, but I think it was pretty close. But there's no going from the 70s stuff to the 2000s stuff. There's no like hard change in his art style where it's like you can tell exactly where it went off the rails from 70s to 2000s. He's just a really consistent artist across his career. So that was a really good adaptation. Then I'm gonna get started on my reread through Tomb of Dracula because I finally picked up all those collections. So that's kind of what I'm slogging through right now.
Okay. So here's a question. Here's a bit of a hot debate. Much like the hot dog sandwich debacle of last year. Here's something that's come up in my writerly circles. I've noticed for as Dracula classicists versus Dracula modernists. As we all know, and Bram Stoker's original writings in his text, Dracula is described as having a mustache.
Yes.
Do you prefer that, or do you prefer the clean-shaven, almost hairless Dracula?
Man, he also had hairy palms, which is one of those weird details from the book that never makes it into anything. I like him with the mustache, but whenever I see the mustache, I immediately think of the Tomb of Dracula version because that's the iconic mustache one.
Yeah.
But I did get around to seeing the Jack Palance version that Dan Curtis directed in the 70s, which is, as far as adaptations go, it's kind of weird and out there. But I also saw the the other Count Dracula with Christopher Lee that's not part of the Hammer series, where he does have like the full mustache. And I almost think he looks better as Count Dracula in that one movie with when he's got the full facial hair thing going on. But I hate to be a normie, but when I think of Dracula, obviously I think of Bela Lugosi like everybody else does in the world. I can't help it. So that's the iconic Dracula.
Yeah, it seems like it'd get in the way.
Yeah, right. When he's sucking blood, he never has
Right.
like a blood mustache going
Like,
on his.
hey, you got something in your stash there. It looks like a little hemoglobin, little blood.
I imagine though, like after so much like skin on skin contact, you're probably gonna like get nice and raw, but the mustache acts like a nice padding that like, you're not rubbing raw. Yeah.
Now the Bram Stoker like authentic text Dracula is kind of all over the place. Sometimes he can go out in the sunlight, and sometimes the sunlight kills him. It's the rules change throughout the story, but it's also, I can't recall what that type of story is called, but it's basically like the found footage of literature where it's assembled through a bunch of newspaper clippings and phonograph transcriptions and journal entries, and they all coalesce to form a narrative. So yeah, you do maybe have like the unreliable narrator aspect in there, but still, they make it a point to say that he's sitting there watching the sunset, and then he dies at the end of the book because he got stabbed in the heart while the sun was setting, and he's like, "Oh no, the sun! I turned into dust." It's like, all right, I think I found a plot hole, but okay.
Yeah, oopsies.
Yep. Yeah, I believe like the overall term for that genre is epistolary, but which is overall means a collection of letters. But I believe there's like a subgenre which is like news clippings specifically. But I that actually is kind of a fun thing you brought up there, which Jose, I'm sure my fellow Vampire the Masquerade and White Wolf nerd can back me up. They later got refined thanks to the guys at White Wolf, but the idea of a vampire being in torpor, which is what had caused him to have to rest in the coffin for so long, that the sun by itself is dangerous but not the worst, but when you're put into a state of torpor, it is immediately fatal.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so what else have you been into recently?
As far as manga goes, Tim Lim, not you, Tim. Sorry, he got me hooked on Spy X Family, which is the manga that finally outsold One Piece. Which is for people who read manga know that's a big deal, because for like 15 years, One Piece has been the #1 selling manga in Japan, and so
it's still going.
Yeah, it's never going to end. That guy's taking that to the grave with him. But Spy Family, Tim got me to read it. He just bought me the first volume and gave it to me, and I read it on the toilet. And I was like, "Hey, this is really good." So I immediately bought like the other 5 volumes, and I'm as a writer, I'm so jealous of the kind of freedom that manga authors have. Which, it's the virtue of the way manga is published, in those bi-weekly phone book size Shonen Jump kind of things.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, they'll do a chapter that, moves the plot along. But then if they just want to do a chapter about them all going to the public pool and swimming, they'll just do one of those. It's like, yeah, we're just going to do an issue. Like, hey, this one's going to be about them going grocery shopping. Let's just do that this week. They kind of just like they can do whatever they want. I tried to, because we do Kamen America, which is inspired by a lot of manga, anime, and tokusatsu and stuff. And so Tim and I kind of pool our knowledge of those various genres. Like Tim doesn't watch Godzilla movies or Super Sentai or Kamen Rider or things like that, but I watch all that stuff, so I can bring that knowledge to it. But he also watches a bunch of anime that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and he brings that knowledge to it. But he wants me to watch certain things that he wants applied to the scripts. And he got me to watch some slice of life stuff that I normally would never watch, and I've kind of enjoyed a lot of them. Like I just finished up K-On!, which is just about a bunch of girls in a high school who decide to start a band. And half the episodes aren't even about them playing in the band. Most of the episodes are just about, one's about them going grocery shopping. One's about them having a cold. It's just like whatever, weird stuff. You think it would be boring, but it's a character driven narrative. It's like even action shows do that sometimes. Like Cowboy Bebop, everybody's watched that one, knows that one. There's maybe 4 episodes of plot relevant stories in Cowboy Bebop, and the other like 22 episodes are just these one-shot adventures. There's one where they never even leave their ship; they just kind of like hang out in the ship and don't do anything all day. And it's like they can just take a break episode, you know. Whereas you know, I just finished plotting Kamen America 6, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a little bit of rewriting in Act 2 because it's just so plot dense that I need to put breathers in there, but I feel like I can't. And then, you know, I go and I read or I watch K-On! And they have an episode where the characters just, you know, sit around the living room eating cookies. And I'm like, God, I wish I could just like relax and do just an easygoing chapter like that.
That's the question though, Roland. Is that the new Bebop or classic Bebop?
Classic. I don't know anybody who watched the live action Bebop.
Well, Roland said they couldn't make it to episode 1 of Bebop, so if you tried jumping straight in with the live action, or if you tried going through the classic first.
So
I know it's definitely a vibe, but I know some people who do like live action, and I get the appeal of it, but it just feels off to me in certain ways.
I mean, it's like that, yeah. With almost anything, if it can't, you know, you're taking something from comics or animation, something that was made for a specific medium, and you're trying to translate it into a very different medium. Sometimes it works, 99% of the time it doesn't. You usually end up with Super Mario Brothers the movie or something like that. But I mean, occasionally, you know, there have been winners, but
then with But then the thing about Super Mario Brothers, the movie, though, is that leads to its own kind of genre watching, where you end up going to your local nerd bar and the entire night is watching Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat 2, Super Mario Brothers, and everyone is just getting poured tremendous amounts of alcohol.
You get a beautiful mess sometimes. I will say that. I do. I mean, Super Mario Brothers, the movie, I was talking to Tim about it the other day. But it's one of those things where someone on Twitter said it, like, you know, if they had just titled that Fabio and Fabrizio's Adventures in Dinosaur City, it would have been, you know, a beloved children's classic. But instead, it's just known as that weird Mario Brothers movie.
Jose, it looked like you had something to say there.
You have nerd bars?
Oh yeah, yeah. It depends on where you're at.
Wrong post.
Well, so we have a ton over here because obviously, you know, everyone has Keep Portland Weird tattooed across their collarbone. But if you're in the Orlando area, there is a place called A Comic Shop, much like our show name, that is across the street from Full Sail. The front half is your normal hole-in-the-wall comic shop. The back half is a restaurant and bar that will have regular movie viewings, or like they also do like wrestling and UFC events there. So getting together with a bunch of nerds to watch wrestling, or like this Dragon Ball Z movie or whatever, it's an experience. Over here we have plenty of barcades that'll kind of serve similar functions. We went, you know.
So what I'm hearing is we're making a reservation in September. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Or if you ever make it up for Rose City, I'll take you to Ground Control, the Mox, and Coin Jam.
The Mox.
Oh,
wow.
The Mox is a wild trip. So for those of you who remember from earlier discussions in the show, we have plenty of wargaming fans and on stream and stuff. There's a store called the Mox that is a tabletop shop at the front, and then a full night, like beyond full service restaurant. This is a like full service dinner experience. So multi-course meals, fine liquor, and 6x4 tables that you can get a mat on, so you can eat while you play Age of Sigmar or 40K.
That's cool. We have a place similar to that called Fat Cats Gaming.
Okay.
And they have a whole bar, kitchen, everything. It's awesome. Yeah.
Double Dragon's really good.
Double Dragon. I mean, that is its own genre. You know, the so bad it's good
Yes.
kind of genre. I mean, those movies, I can watch them and enjoy them. Like the Street Fighter one, especially.
Oh,
There's or like the Masters of the Universe movie, you know, like as bad as an adaptation of He-Man that is, it's got Frank Langella as Skeletor, and he just eats that scenery and makes that movie. Or Raul Julia as M. Bison in the Street Fighter movie.
So good.
They're fantastic.
It's so good. And of course, that genre also started off the DC EU with Shaquille O'Neal's Steel.
Yes.
Steel, yep.
Somehow that movie title makes it into about half our shows. Somehow, I don't know.
You got to mention Steel once per episode.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal owes us money.
I know exactly. We're campaigning to make that canon.
We're making people aware of this film.
Yeah.
Wasn't it weird in the 90s? Like, the comic books they chose to make movies out of, you know, before they did like the heavy hitters like Spider-Man and Green Lantern or whatever. Like they were doing The Mask and Mystery Men and The Crow and
you know, it wasn't for lack of trying though. I remember for years, I can't remember which magazine it was that I kept up with. For years they tried to do Spider-Man and they just could never pull it off. They could never, you know, and I'd always have my hopes up, you know, because they would have articles on it and it just never would materialize, you know, until like 2000 once, you know.
Up until Sam Raimi, the best Spider-Man movies were coming out of Bollywood.
Jeez. I remember the 1970s one that they used to play on the Sci-Fi Channel when I was a kid in the 90s, and it was just like 3 episodes of the TV series tacked together, but they pretended it was a movie, and I was like, this is the best it's gonna get, so I'll take it.
Yeah, and every now and then he'd pop in on Sesame Street.
Yeah, right. I think it was Electric Company or something, and
Electric Company.
And we just kind of scraped what we could off the kitchen floor and enjoyed our live action superheroes that way back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Well, kind of. Do you have anything else, manga-wise, you've been reading, or any games or music that you've been enjoying recently that you want to get into?
I mean, I think I pretty much covered what I've been reading lately. I'm mostly just Spy Family on the manga front, Tomb of Dracula on the comic book front, and then there's these Solson Ninja Turtle books. But I was chatting with you guys before we started on that. I've still got some more research to find on Gary Brodsky and where these stupid things came from.
That's one of my favorite things about it. When it happens to all forms of publishing, but with comics, it seems to be especially opaque when you get to like these books that just seem to exist in a void or in a vortex where it's like, I found this somewhere, but as far as I know, it doesn't actually exist. It's in some liminary space that I can't really grasp.
It's so weird, especially with Ninja Turtles, because I mean, most people who know me online anyway, they know that I'm a Ninja Turtles guy, and I've got like whole collections of that stuff, and I've written all these articles on them. But Turtles, you'd think more of it would be better, I don't know, archived. Because it's Ninja Turtles and that's a huge global thing, but there was so much of it, and Eastman and Laird were just licensing it left and right, especially once it exploded with the cartoon and toys. Like a guy in Russia that I know named Arseny Dubakov, who has a license to publish turtle comics in Russia, like he does Russian editions of the IDW books and stuff. He discovered that there was an entire ongoing Ninja Turtles comic in Italy in the 90s that no one had ever heard of. And it was officially licensed, and Eastman and Laird and Mirage had no record of it. They didn't even know that they were doing it. I guess they were just getting a check from Italy, and they were just cashing it and not really caring. And so he tracked all these comics down, and he's doing translated editions of it in English and Russian over there. But there are editions in Korea and Mexico and Japan that were all licensed, and just trying to track these things down. And even here in the US, we find like there are these weird martial arts training manuals that came out in 1986 from a short-lived publisher that's most famous book is Reagan's Raiders. And like no one knows like what the heck was up with this publisher. Where did these books come from? The only quote I could find about it directly from Kevin Eastman was in an interview he did for the Comics Journal in like the late 90s. And all he says about him is that a lot of people got screwed over on those books, and he doesn't elaborate. That's when,
It's a common thing. Some people talk about the comics in the 90s. We got a question for you. Everett Todd wants to know, any chance of a Matt Belden Punchline crossover?
I don't want to say yes or no on anything in particular, but please check out Black Ops Kamen America Soul Finder, the big crossover that's going to be coming out this summer. I think you'll be happy is all I'll say out there. But yes, please check that out. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised.
Neither confirmed nor denied. Appropriately redacted.
Right.
Let's go with that.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, if you are you much of a gamer, as some of us are here, or have you been playing anything? Or
no, I haven't. Gaming was like video game consoles. I had to give those up a few years back. I would like to get a Switch because I want to play like Breath of the Wild and and stuff like that. But one hobby had to give, so it ended up being video games.
Yeah, I had to come to that too. I had to cut a lot of mine out just because I can, I just came to the decision I can either produce content or I can consume content. And it was just getting to where I was consuming way too much. So kind of I have a balance going right now. So you have to be careful.
And that's why I got into streaming. So half of my creating content is consuming content. So I found a way to get paid to play games.
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
That's just beating the system, Tim. That's all that is.
Exactly. It's got to game the system.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we're going to pass it around the circle now then, if we're caught up with your life there, Mark, for what you've been consuming media-wise. I'll go over to Quentin. What have you been reading, watching, playing, what have you? I need to come up with a good acronym for that.
Well, I haven't been able to do hardly any art like the last 2.5 weeks because I've been really dealing with some medical issues. But I haven't been able to hardly sit at my desk, only to do my daily work. And after that, so I did game some just because it would take me out of, when you're sitting there drawing, everything's quiet and you're focused and you're postured, and I just could not do that. And so anyway, so I've been playing some DayZ, played some games with the kids. I've been watching. Today I watched, talking about going back to older movies. Today I watched Big Trouble in Little China. 1986. Man, that movie was I remembered that movie being so much better than what it was. Oh my goodness. It was hilarious all the way through it though, because it was such a tongue-in-cheek movie to begin with. It didn't really bother me, but even the serious parts were, oh my goodness, this is so 80s. This whole movie is so 80s.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
It's so bizarre. Like the guy who just explodes at the end, he like holds his breath and his eyes bug out and he blows up.
Yeah, and there's like stuff that happens all the way throughout the whole entire movie, and you're just thinking, why did that just happen?
Why is there a Yeti? It just shows up.
Exactly. Where did the Yeti come from? I mean, there's just so much stuff that just like, I mean, it was like a parody of a movie, but it was a real movie, But anyway, so I watched that today and it was just hilarious. But I watched, I gave Halo a try. Man, I was totally down with it till they took his helmet. Oh, well, better not say anything.
Well, I don't think that's spoilery because that was in like their marketing material. That's kind of like, I think they intentionally put that at the front of marketing so that people know that it's not the same canon.
Not to watch
as the
this.
games.
Yeah.
It's like they
hey,
learned
don't
nothing.
Watch this. We're gonna take his helmet off in the first episode.
Yeah, right. It's like, didn't they learn anything from the two Judge Dredd movies? There's the good one and the bad one. The bad one is the one where he takes his helmet off. The good one is the one where he takes
said it so many times, and these guys, they have, many of them have more education than I do, and they just don't seem to get it. Snake Eyes in G.I. Joe. It took us nearly 4 years to get to see what he looked like. That was one of the mistakes about the character. Darth Vader, we had to wait to the last Return of the Jedi. I say the last film, but anyway, that's debatable. But anyway, I mean, you could go down the line here. Storm Shadow, we never really got to see, him. but anyway, I'm just saying, whenever you kill that mystique, it's over. It's done. You know, I mean, there's no getting it back. And in the first episode, after all these years, you know, people wondering since 2000, 2001, whatever it was, Combat Evolved came out. I can't remember. They take his helmet off, and I was so with it until then, you know.
Yeah.
I did end up watching the next episode, but I think I'm probably done. I mean, it's a decent show, but you know, that just kind of, that was too much for me. But anyway, other than that, I haven't really. I finished the piece, some commissions that now that I've gotten a little better, I've finished some commissions, and I'm fixing to start reading the script for the new Night Rise. That's what I'm fixing to do.
Nice.
I'm kind of on the opposite end of the Halo spectrum from you. I find myself like with my fellow Twitcher GB, where since Halo 3, Halos 4 through 6 have kind of existed in this weird almost way. Infinite's good. Infinite, I like the story, but Halo, much like Star Wars for me, has existed in books outside of that for like the actual canonical story. So
yeah.
I've already had a mental image of what Chief's faces look like because there's Kevin, but there's no like in canon lore for why he should take where he leaves the mask on, would leave the helmet on all the time because he eats chow, he pees.
Exactly. And I get that. And Snake Eyes did too.
Yeah, for the suit.
Snake Eyes did too.
Yeah. But I do think it was a little too early. I get what because they're trying to.
You know, I would not have minded had they have waited. You know, that could have been that could have been a solid season finale. You know, that could have been a.
They did that though in The Mandalorian, though, didn't they? Like season 1 ended with him taking his helmet off. We all got to see Pascal's face, or what's his name?
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal. Yeah. But then, you know, a lot of it is on the actors. Like Pedro Pascal was very publicly complaining that he doesn't get to take his helmet off enough in The Mandalorian, so they had to come up with like excuses for him to take it off.
He read the script.
Yeah.
He went into it reading the script. He knew.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you're getting paid, dude. You're getting paid a lot of money, so just
Yeah, I forgot the name of the guy who plays Chief. I know he was just saying, he's like, I'm just here to play a character. He's he's the most method actor I've ever seen anyone talk about a video game adaptation. But I don't know if I would like that as like a season ender, but maybe it's like a mid-season like character change,
right?
Like where like where because like every story is a character learning a lesson and then acting upon a said lesson to execute action to solve problem. So like if he uses like a visual metaphor, like Chief has evolved and grown in some way, he has learned X and now can defeat bad guy Y. To actually have that moment where he takes off the helmet and he's like, okay, it's time to get serious. I would think I would have liked that idea rather than the first minute.
Well, I kind of have it.
I'll fight you on that one, sir.
I have a little bit of a theory on the mask thing, and I don't know if it's right. I just know that it kind of works for me. But once if you do that, if you make the mask or helmet a thing, meaning that you don't ever show the face, you kind of get yourself in a situation where you kind of can't show it. And the reason why I say that is because like the mask becomes that character's face.
Yeah.
So when you take it off, you know, you get people used to it. You get them primed by it, you know, Boba Fett, you know, but so when you do reveal, then, you know, for one, a lot of people are going to be disappointed no matter, you know, what he looks like or what the person looks like. But then it's almost like you're starting over now with the characters, because now you've got this huge load of information about him now that you've seen his face, you know, his true face under the thing. So you have to reevaluate. And so
I think that's kind of like what like GB had said, is that he would have preferred it if the first unmasking on screen happened in the game.
Yeah,
because for gamers who've been playing System 2.
Absolutely.
Like
And
I thought we were gonna get that with Guardians, like when they had him like running around and the other was it ODST people were coming after him and whatnot. Like at the end, he walks like amongst all the soldiers and whatnot, hops onto the machine because like as far as I understand from the books, his armor is like it's kind of grafted to him. Like there's like nodes on him where like the armor connects to augment his
the last bit of the augmentation, once they hit the age of 17, I want to say, is when they have the Mjolnir system integrated into their central nervous system.
Right.
So And Everett, they don't just kidnap children to make super soldiers. They then make flash cones of those children to replace them in their families that then die horrible deaths within 5 years, dramatically scarring hundreds of families.
Right?
Man.
Yeah, the books are awesome. I'm just gonna go with that. The books are awesome. But yeah, I thought we were gonna get that when he puts his hands in that machine, like gets ready to pull something. He starts to pull his helmet up, and then it fades to black. I'm like, really, dude?
Mm-hmm.
I like what Jeff Potts says. Next season, Master Chief will dye his hair pink, grow it out, shave one side of his head, declare he's not gender binary, non-binary.
Yeah,
so he's gonna look like,
I thought that haircut was gonna go away. I thought we'd finally over that. No, it just won't go.
Normally, I maintain that bit of an undercut, but I'm growing it out because I'm trying to get that solid, heavily tattooed man bun look. Am I your banker? Am I Viking? Who knows?
You made a good point though about expectations though. When you keep the face hidden for so long, like is anything everyone ends up with their own idea, their own headcanon of what that face is going to look like. I think the best example is like Cobra Commander, because they revealed his face in the cartoon and the Marvel comic, and they were both totally different ends of the spectrum. The cartoon, he's actually a snake. That's stupid. And then in the comic, they showed his face almost by accident. It was like the issue where they explained how he came back from the dead, and they show his body like on the operating table, and they accidentally just showed his face, and he's just a normal looking dude with orange hair. And I was like, oh, so he's just a normal looking dude? I mean, that makes sense, but
and that's
I do like the way they did Snake Eyes, because they did kind of prime you a little that he had taken some hits, that he had suffered some in Vietnam, so it was not going to be pretty. So by the time you saw it, then by the time they did, you were just wondering, now how bad does this guy's face look? And then you see it, and it's like, whoa, that guy's really jacked up.
Just like Jonah Hex,
Well, in the comic, he went to go have, I believe there's a storyline where he went to go have like those check to see if he can have surgery on himself. You know what I mean? He was with Scarlet, and like that, and during that storyline, he actually had like this mask off. He wore regular clothes and whatnot. But they did like, in regards to like the art, they did like heavily like shadows or like halftones on his face, like every time he came to look around for somewhere. It was pretty cool.
Have y'all ever heard the theory about him that Chuckles, the character Chuckles, was Snake Eyes?
I just heard that. One of my friends and I were talking about it.
That is so nuts, because I went back and looked. Well, supposedly, what the propagators of this theory say is that Chuckles was Snake Eyes because he never speaks, and he is always like gone whenever Snake Eyes is present.
He doesn't,
and he's always doing these top secret ops. So there's some validity to it.
And he's blonde,
wearing blue eyes.
And so I thought that was really, really interesting. And if you go back and look into it, he absolutely has no lines in anything.
In regards to the action figures, whatever season of action figures that Chuckles came out, they didn't make or Snake Eyes action figure.
Well, yeah, that was the year that G.I. Joe the movie came out. So they did like the Rawhides, where they did like Jinx and Chuckles and Tunnel Rat. But yeah, that's an awesome theory, and I know that Tim Lim would love that, because Chuckles is one of his favorite characters, because Chuckles is the only G.I.
one of mine
Joe.
As well.
Yeah, but Tim liked him as a kid, and he told me it's because Chuckles was the only G.I. Joe from Little Rock, Arkansas, which is where Tim is from.
Nice.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from Joe lovers. Is usually people have a tie to characters because of the file cards, which is not hardly present anymore in any of the new ones. Yeah, is because they're from their area, or because they have some occupation or something, that's like the person that likes the character.
Absolutely,
they should really bring that back.
Yeah.
My favorite, like my top favorite GI Joe is Tunnel Rat, like hands down.
Tunnel Rat's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was Larry Hama's, like, he was designed to look like Larry Hama, wasn't he? And I think wasn't that Larry Hama's role when he was actually in Vietnam? Wasn't he a tunnel rat? So it was like the character was based off of him, his backstory.
Oh, I'm not even sure about it. I didn't even know that. That's all. That makes it even more awesome.
Mine is Short Fuse, and that's because that is the first GI Joe that I got. He was one of the original 13. I got him in 1982. A little Short Fuse. A lot of people. I mean, he's barely showed up in anything. A lot of people don't even probably know who he is. But that original 13, I don't know if any of you guys were around during that time. I think Jose, you were. Mark, I'm not sure how old you are, and I won't.
That was a couple years before I was born. So my era of GI Joe was the hot pink neon.
Oh
GI Joe of the early '90s.
Psychedelic
Wow.
Joes.
Yeah.
It's the best color palette if I can get my my Stormcast there. Yeah.
Well, the original 13, they all pretty much were all the same body mold, most of them, and they just kind of changed the color hair, and there were some things that were different, but the original 13 mostly looked the same, and the only female was Scarlet, and she came out later. But anyway, he was the first one I got. That's why he's my favorite Joe. But I'd have to go with, although I was torn. I hated the way the cartoon did Cobra Commander. I always liked Cobra Commander until I saw the cartoon, and then I was like, my goodness. Retreat all the time. I was
Cobra
like,
Commander was cool in the comic.
Yeah, no, not Cobra Commander. Yeah.
I mean, I like the Cobras better than the Joes. I
Yes,
just thought
definitely,
that those
by
characters, they had a lot of personality and a lot of really cool gimmicks. But if I had to choose my favorite Joe, it was Lowlight, because I liked him because he was like the spooky character. You know, and anybody who's like that, I immediately as a kid would gravitate to anybody who was like the spooky character. Like my favorite Turtles character was Casey Jones because he had a hockey mask like Jason Voorhees, so that was immediately, like zoomed in on that.
You seem like a Casey Jones type of guy.
Oh,
now we can talk about our favorite turtles now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
No.
All right. Have you been able to watch anything at all while there's time, or have you just kind of balance between what you've already kind of mentioned and working?
I literally have just been working. We have had, I work in the printing business, and it's playoff season. And we're a national company. So when playoff season comes around, a lot of stuff gets shoved to the side. But I have tried to do art. I've tried to, but I just have not been able to. I was lucky to get done what I got done. So I've played. And I have kids, so
yeah,
pretty much that takes a huge chunk. Jose knows what I'm talking about. He's got like 15 or 16. What?
87.
So that takes up a lot of time. But any moment that I've had, I've played Daisy Epoch.
Oh yeah.
It's off the Arma 2. It's a mod on Arma 2, the old 2009 game. I would have played something else, but I have consoles over here, but I just haven't played them in a while.
Sure. That's fair. All right. Jose, what have you been watching, reading, playing, listening to, ingesting?
I haven't really been watching anything like significant. I do from time to time, like I'll get like a hankering, like, oh, I'm gonna watch the old Cold Case show.
Okay.
So, like, because I like the fact that it flashbacks to different eras. I like the idea of people acting out different eras and how they thought it was back then and whatnot. That and I've been reading slowly, like every now and again, going through the Ghost from Dark Horse Comics. Ghost Omnibus books. Like those are pretty cool. And then other than that, just working. Like Aaron had me messed up with this like splash page city scene.
Perfect.
That slowed me up a little bit on pages.
You're not taking any of the lessons from when I taught you inking last week on.
I did. You guys should have been there. It was fantastic. Go back and watch the show.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, actual inker teaches a writer how to kind of sort of ink. That was a good time. So no arc this week then.
Yeah, but not really.
Okay.
I died last night. I don't want to talk about it.
I
don't like that. If it's a game that I've been playing, and Ark is like the game where like you just keep expanding and expanding, like building your base and building your tamed animals and stuff like that. And you get to a point where you're like, oh, my animals are tough. I can take out anything. And I did a boss fight and I died. I was the first person in the group to die at the boss fight, which I feel like
I love it when that happens.
Cool yeah. I was like, oh man. And then the people I was playing with, my group of people, they're like, where'd you go? I was like, I think I died. Like all of a sudden my screen went white. It's like, what the heck? And they're like, somebody needs to take over the animals, and nobody knows how to take over the animals to like direct them. I'm like, man.
Oh,
I did forget one thing. I almost went and saw Morbius because I've been excited about that movie for so long. But
Mighty Morbin time.
At the last minute, we decided to go watch Batman, and I'm a little behind the curve. But I loved Batman.
Oh yeah,
I did. I liked it.
I am of various minds. As a whole, I enjoyed the movie. I think it was a very entertaining movie.
Exactly.
But there are aspects of it that I want to nitpick because people are like, oh, it was this. Oh, it was this. I was like, dude, you're wrong.
I will say that one thing I can say about this movie is I was not bored one single moment during the movie. And that right there is a win.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, even some of the best movies nowadays, I mean, there's sections in them that's just, I understand there's character building and plot building and stuff like that, but man, sometimes, I'm going to get up and go to the bathroom,
not everything needs to be 2.5 hours long, there's a lot of bloat in movies these days.
That was like my only beef with it. Well, that's not true. I had several other beefs. Like my only like real like concern was like, there's a car chase scene because it's Batman. There's always got to be a car chase scene.
Yeah.
And I actually fell asleep at the beginning of that car chase scene, but like only for like 2 minutes, and then I woke back up and I was like, oh, but it was such a long movie. I was exhausted. Like I can only do so
3 hours long.
See, that's why I guess being on Madness. But if it wasn't for there you go. I mean, I really listened to it. It's perfect.
That's pretty good. Yeah. That's a good idea.
I wouldn't have minded the length if I didn't have like 32 liters of Pepsi going into that.
Yeah.
But I for me, it gave me the same. The last movie I was that alert in was Dunkirk. And that it's an action movie for art nerds.
Yeah. I enjoyed Dunkirk.
Yeah.
But I like movies like that, though.
Yeah.
I like World War II movies.
Oh, yeah. Again, there's those things where like that 1912 where it's like, hey, it's a war story, but you also have to be like really into art. It's an art house war story, which I like. But yeah.
A Ghost TV series would have been awesome. I just want to put that out there.
I'm still torn if I'm going to see Morbius.
I didn't even realize it was out already. Like, there's been so many. Oh, it's coming out. It's coming out. I lost track of when it was going to come out, and my friend told me about it, and I was like, "Oh crap!" He's like, "I've already gone to see it." I was like, "Bro, really?" Like
I just
without me.
and I saw the collective sigh on the Twitter sphere when it came out, and everyone's like, "Oh, right.
I'm gonna watch it, but it's gonna be a home watch."
Yeah,
I believe. I really try to save my movie going, booming speakers and atmosphere for, really tried and true movies because it's so seldom I get to go to the movies. You want
to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to do a freaking
right. I mean, I'll go to the movies to watch like Godzilla versus Kong or something, but
yeah, epics. Yeah.
Yeah, if the movie going experience, if the theatrical experience, doesn't improve, the the movie itself has no bearing on it. Like, I'm not going to go see a comedy in the theater. I'll get the same impact at home as I would, in the theater on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Same.
All right.
Yeah, like other than that, like I've been pretty much just grinding.
Sure. Yeah. Understandable. Yeah. I can relate. This week has been we just finished the Kickstarter for Wolf Hunter. Check your emails, fill out the survey.
Damn. Yeah.
Right.
Kickstarter surveys. They're not optional, people. You got to do them.
Yeah. So we just finished that, and I've been working on the after promo because you still have to get people to fill out the surveys. Do that. Hey, thanks for sending money for our little comic thingy. And started working on the history edition. So for those of you who did back it and are not aware, we hit our second stretch goal, which means we are doing a history edition where World War II, Wolf Hunter being a World War II spy story, we referenced a lot of history and a lot of like fun things that we try to like hit things that weren't necessarily in overview textbooks. Obviously, the entire book centers around the Tizard mission, which unless you are a technology or interrelations theory major, you may not know about. So
you're gonna send the audio tape along with it.
We're doing
audio commentary.
Yes, yeah.
To go along while you read the book.
Yeah, we're going to get Sir Patrick Stewart to the narration.
Yes.
Yes.
I knew he's new at Silverline.
Yeah,
I knew we'd put him to work somehow.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, no, we just ran in between takes on Picard just with lines like, hey, please read this.
Yeah.
Please read this.
Yeah.
No, we're doing like a tie-in. So it's going to be a separate book to read along with your comics. That way, as you go page by page, it'll be like, and here's, the first pages we get into the Hawker Hurricane and the ME 109 and the BF 109 or 103, 109. Germans like a lot of nines in their technology. 9. Panzerkampfwagen 7-9. They're light tank. But we're explaining like, okay, here's this piece of technology. Here's the periods of the war it was used in. This is the second conflict of Dover. So at this point, this is being introduced. Blah blah blah. And then going over the practicalities of the Tizard mission, the theorized parts of history, as well as the things that we want to get from now that certain letters have been revealed from people who are active in the various governments at that point. Now we know like how more of the spy game worked in London during World War II. So getting into that, and we're going just kind of page by page. So as you're reading it, you get a reference to go along with it. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And then Saturday or Sunday, filed my taxes. Lots of fun there. But mostly it's just been, no, it's not being late. It's because I have holdings in real estate and international markets closed later in the year. Yep. Been mentioned Halo. Started watching Moon Knight, and
did too.
That is everything that I wanted from that. We didn't get the we didn't get the ketamine raid. We have no reference if he's going to break Dracula's knees, and we didn't get the random BS Go panel yet. But the showrunner has said in commentary since then that they are a big fan of Moon Knight memes. So
nice.
Yeah, I don't know what we have references later on, but I've been really enjoying that show.
I watched that as well. I forgot, but yeah. That's what I think about it. I forgot about it.
Perfect. Well,
I'm just kidding. I liked it. I liked it.
I mean, there's some things like Moon Knight. It kind of feels like those 90s superheroes movies where the people who aren't as you read your Avengers and your Justice League, and that's about like your entry level into comics or whatever. But they're like, who is Moon Knight, and why is this British man talking to himself in a mirror?
Yep.
Moon Knight? You mean Jewish Batman?
Yes,
that's right.
Yes,
that's good.
L'chaim. Yeah. And I've been enjoying that a lot.
I didn't think I was gonna like the way the suit looked and the way they like incorporated that into it, but
you talking about the toilet paper suit?
Yes.
I like a lot
because I didn't like when they kind of did that for Spawn. I thought that was kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just my opinion. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I thought they played it off pretty well. Like in comparison.
I like that they saved it for the last moment. Like kind of like the opposite where we got the helmet off too early in Halo. The suit coming in at the very end was all right.
Save something, man! Save something. Yeah.
I am also hoping. I want to see. I do want to see the Mr. Knight suit, like the vest and the tie, but I want that to be stay for later in the season as well because that's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, I don't want that right away. Like, please put that off just a little bit. Let us build up to it.
Oh yeah. And of course, I'm hoping that this means that in future editions of What If we get the Moon Knight one-man Avenger What If storyline.
Well, I really enjoyed the horror aspect of it.
Oh yeah,
That's I love that. We need more of that. Yeah,
we said that earlier in earlier episodes, but superheroes as a whole genre, comics, movies, or whatever, superheroes don't need to serve as a genre themselves. They can serve as a platform for a genre.
Right.
Yeah, I mean Logan being a Western, having Moon Knight be more of a supernatural horror. I feel like it's perfect for the way that character is now.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And here I am just waiting for someone to do a good version of Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. No.
Please don't hold your breath.
I know.
We don't want you to pass out.
we are supposed to get Robert Ramirez some point in the future, which leads me to believe we might get Midnight Suns.
Midnight Suns would be. Don't even get man.
I know.
We're going to have to do a new version of Blade.
It's like, kids sit there on their bed and they prayed, please, Santa, bring me something great and amazing gift that I want for Christmas. I'm over here like, please, Dark Overlords, bring me Midnight Suns.
Yeah.
we do have Mahershala Ali in the new Blade, and I really like Mahershala Ali. I like him a lot in
Alita Blade already. I was just kidding, but okay.
It's in production, and I really liked him a lot in Alita Battle Angel. So I'm other stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in that role.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll give him a chance. Obviously Wesley Snipes, but he's not exactly marketable anymore. So.
Yeah. Although they did have Wesley Snipes in What We Do in the Shadows.
That was Wesley Snipes is Wesley Snipes.
Yes. It's like he's not here to play.
That show is so funny.
It's so good. I also need to watch Our Flag Means Death. I haven't started it yet, but
I think I've watched half of episode 1.
Yeah,
there are aspects, like parts of it so far that I'm like, okay, that is not British people must be cracking up over this particular scene.
Yeah,
because that is not funny to me. But then there are moments where I just die laughing because like it's just like the little jokes that are said on it. It's funny.
Being raised from Irish, French, German family, raised on Monty Python and a bit of Fry and Laurie, I'm sure I'm gonna just love it. But the Wesley Snipes as Wesley Snipes the vampire. Yes, it was great. Yeah.
What about you, Tim?
What?
What about you? Did you tell us what? I mean, we've got a long intro so far, but
I know that's I've heard we use this as a way to deep dive into. I mean, obviously, with we've gotten more into doing hard lesson or hard skill craft things with our last one. We've been in soft skill craft for a while. But with Mark on and having the guest, it's kind of fun to do kind of a lighter episode where we get to know creators as personalities as well. Which I know
we get to know them as people.
Exactly. And Mark already has a Kamen America running, so I'm sure people who are here for him or are deeply familiar with that. And if you're not, boy, but.
So, I've actually not read the comic, right? But I read the webtoons.
Oh yeah, that's good because we intended the webtoon to be able to act as something that can be read on its own apart from the comic. It's still in continuity, but our compromise that we'll do short arcs that retell some of the important plot moments from the main series, but from a different perspective. So even if you've already been reading the main series, you're still getting something new out of the webcomic.
Yeah.
That's such a good idea. That is such a good idea, because a lot of times, it's hard to get on a new book or a new thing just because you feel like, you've missed already.
Oh yeah. Like One Piece.
Yeah. And there are several of the webtoon episodes that, like, I feel it's almost like we didn't touch base on this in the comic. Like I said, I haven't read the comic yet, but like that's the feeling I got was we didn't touch base in the comic. We're gonna like snip it in here so that you guys can like, oh, okay, I get that.
That's where I get to do those things I was talking about at the beginning of tonight's show, where it's like, all right, let's just do a story about the characters going grocery shopping. Can't do that in the main series because we got to move the plot forward, but I can do something on the webtoons where we can just do something fun like that.
Absolutely.
We can talk about some of their backstory that's maybe semi-relevant. So some of the stuff from the webtoons, if you've been reading the webtoons as well and the main series, you'll get a little more out of it because you might see where the two things connect, but it's not mandatory. But also, we had some people when we started doing the webtoons who were telling us, like, why would you do that? It's free. You're not going to make any money. Like, but once we have enough of them, we're going to collect them, and then we're going to sell them, and then we're going to make money for the people who want to have those things in print to put on their shelf next to their main volumes.
And how often do you update the webtoon?
Webtoon is every Wednesday morning.
So you kind of get the same thing where if you're a comic reader and you're kind of binging for your next main hit, you got the webtoon is kind of your first one's free.
Yeah, right. Well, it also keeps people thinking about the brands and thinking about the book and the characters in between volumes, because we put out 3 books a year. We do 2 Kamen Americas and 1 Black Ops. So there are these stretches of a few months, in between each volume. And the webtoons gives people their hit of Kamen America once a week to remind them that it exists and who the characters are and to keep them hooked. And then the next volume comes out and then they can go and they can get that.
Perfect. That's dope.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a pretty interesting read. I dug it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Anything, super common writer. Well, that's I've said before. In the more comics go off the deep end, the more I love them, and a lot of manga and Japanese content starts so far off the deep end that I'm really into it.
I mean, that's why we're so jealous of that they don't have to put themselves in a box from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And now, don't get me wrong. I mean, the Japanese will do, like the isekai genre, the whole, like, I was reincarnated in such and such magical world. There's only so many times you can watch, a formula of that. They'll do crazy stuff, but there's eventually a breaking point where there's too many permutations. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just the fact that they can do stories like that, they can. Dragon Ball Z is really popular, right? They did one spin-off that was just like a guy gets reincarnated as the worst character in Dragon Ball Z. Yes. And he's like, what? I get stuck as Yamcha? I don't want to be Yamcha. No one wants to be Yamcha. So it retells the story of Dragon Ball Z from this guy who's stuck as the worst character, and he's motivated. It's like, no, if I'm going to be stuck as this guy, he's going to be the best character. And so he basically becomes he overshadows the actual hero Goku throughout the plot lines of the series, and it's really clever. It's a really interesting take on it. So they get to find some really funny ways to put spins on even a tired genre like isekai that you thought everybody had done everything before.
Absolutely. And even when they do operate within used tropes, there's also a lot of like really weird takes on it. Like one of the ones that kind of blew up and where I liked was the take on D Gray Man with its kind of take on shonen storytelling. And
I never got around to watch. I think I saw the first episode of D Gray Man when it came out, but that was also like 10 years ago, so I don't remember it very well.
It's already I believe it finished more recently because for the manga wise, because the creator, she had gotten into a car accident and then could only recently actually work on it. Yeah. What else I've been up to this week? Started playing Bolt Action for those into tabletop wargaming, World War II based strategy games, and just watching a lot of documentaries because I've turned into a middle-aged man with a World War obsession.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's you, Tim.
Yeah, and also And the book I'm currently reading through is the second World War, or the Second War by Antony Beevor, which is a kind of an analysis. It's a for those of you who've gone through school for history, it's a third-hand source, tertiary source. That it's a combination of primary and secondary sources with analysis offered on top. Looking at the humanitarian impact of the Second World War and kind of looking at the decisions what each side made and how they impacted smaller level individuals. Kind of looking at the French government's decision to delay actually declaring war on Germany for so long, and also looking at some of the guys who were conscripted by 5 armies and fought on a bunch of different sides during the course of the war, but kind of the weird things you don't necessarily think about, which I think is pretty interesting to get into. I can't remember his name exactly. I'll have to pull it up again, but there was a Korean soldier who fought and then was conscripted when Japan annexed Korea into Manchukuo and created their puppet state there. He then, in the border conflict with Russia, was then captured and conscripted by the Red Army, who then put him into the Western Front, where he was captured and conscripted by the Wehrmacht, and then eventually found his way over to I believe it was in Belgium or the Netherlands, and was finally able to surrender to Allied forces over there, and ended up living out in America because he's captured by the United States Army.
Wow. Like, please don't put me to work.
Yeah. So it's kind of the weird little stories that you don't necessarily think about when it comes to the greater historical events. That's been what I've been up to, is just being a history nerd and reading and watching a lot of.
And you know what I think is amazing about that whole story is, think of how many stories there are that have not even been told.
Oh yeah,
that there was no writer present, or and a lot of us, we don't think our stories are that important anyway. Each of us in our own right, we don't think that way, and it takes somebody else hearing it to see the value in it. I mean, think of all the stories that have come and gone and had no writer, had never, had a pen to paper, that's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, first, it's amazing that he survived that many fronts and that many armies. Yeah, as a conscript. But then, and then also to be at a point where some journalist finds out about, like, wait, how many armies did you fight for?
Yeah,
and was able to actually put that down into ring. And thank you, Mr. Boone. Check your emails. Do the surveys.
Check your emails. That's right.
Yep. I keep rolling the weirdest on the collarbone. Do the surveys on the other collarbone. So that's kind of been our hour-long intro of our 2-hour show. But like I said, I wanted this to be more of a lighter topic discussion, because it's kind of what we mentioned earlier in the emails. Excellent. But I didn't want to just have Mark jump on like, hey, you want to do a show? Great, you're teaching the lesson for 2 hours.
Yeah. We totally should have did that. Yes. I mean, he's getting paid $50,000 for the show. He should be working.
$50,000, but it's all in Del Taco vouchers.
Oh yeah, fix the mail, right?
Yeah. All right.
That's on the list for September as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Del Taco. I haven't actually been. I can't remember a whole lot of what was up in Tampa Bay, because, again, I lived in Orlando. I was only up in Tampa Bay every so often, so I have to see if I remember a few things. But Mark, what are your go-to convention restaurant stops, foods, what have you?
Geez. So, well, one time we did a show that in Missouri that was probably the worst show we ever did. And I won't name names on it or anything, but it did not go well. It was bad. So we're like, all right, if we drove all the way here to Missouri and we're not going to have a good show, we got to get something out of this. So we drove like 45 minutes out from the hotel we were staying at to go to Lambert's, which is like a famous restaurant.
Oh, yes.
The throne
Lambert's.
rolls.
Yes.
Yeah, we're like, all right, we're going to make an excursion so we have some good memory of doing this. So we ate at Lambert's, and their food was fantastic. The
Foley,
throne rolls
Alabama.
were fun, but the food there was really good. You know, they're famous for their side dishes of all things, because they come like the waiters. They have waiters with side dishes who just kind of like walk circuits around the restaurant, and if they see that you don't have any sides on your plate because you finished them, they're like, you want some more fried potatoes and onions? Like, yeah, load me up. You know, like, and the food there was great.
Yeah, y'all want some buckeye peas? Put a big old huge bowl on your table for everybody to dip black-eyed peas out of. Holy moly!
Oh man, good old like
I
Southern
need this
cooking.
restaurant in my life.
Yeah.
I went to the one in Foley, Alabama.
Mm.
Man, amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, sometimes the food is. I mean, we do, between the two of us, we probably do a dozen shows a year. You know, some of them are going to be great, some of them are going to be good. You might have a couple disappointments. So we always try to, good or bad, we try to get some good food while we're there, wherever we're at, and at least have that going for us.
Absolutely. Food is definitely one of those things that even if the restaurant experience is absolute trash, that'll make it worth it.
Well, I say that, you know, our first night we went to Lambert's and we made a big like excursion for it. The Sunday on our drive back, when we just like left early on that show, we're like, we're just gonna swing by Come and Go and get some hot dogs. So we just ate some Come and Go gas station hot dogs, and then just drove the rest of the way.
Yeah,
I'm all about a good hot dog now.
No, perfect. Yeah, that's kind of the equivalent of we're going up to Portland and Mount Hood for. And if you're used to the area, or if you watched Man vs. Food, you may have heard of Killer Burger, with their famous burger, the Triple Bypass.
Oh man.
Yes.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
not a good burger if it hasn't killed two people.
Yes. You do have to sign a waiver. But even if you don't do that, the rest of the burgers are pretty fantastic. If not chock full of cholesterol, and you need to like run 3 miles the next day. But coming down, and then their trailer is closed. And we don't want to like take the Jutar off to like Happy Valley and go like essentially another several miles north. We have to come back down south. So instead, we go to Dairy Queen and just have mad indigestion for 3 hours. Yeah.
I got a Dairy Queen right near where I live. I love going there, man. But you know, you can't go to Dairy Queen and not get like the ice cream, right?
Yes.
So it's you end up just like really loading up every time you go there, because like, I'm at a Dairy Queen, I got to get a sundae or a Blizzard or something. Yeah.
Here in Texas, they have tacos, and they're actually really good. Really good. And the only reason I say here in Texas is because I'm from Mississippi, and the Dairy Queens in Mississippi, they don't have tacos. I remember when I moved back to Mississippi, I couldn't wait to get to Dairy Queen to get some tacos because they're so good. And they did not have tacos. I was like, it must be a Texas thing. And sure enough, it is a Texas thing.
Must be. Yeah, the ones around here in Arkansas don't have them either.
Well, if they ever get them, I'll just go ahead and tell you that Dairy Queen, unless they do something different with them, the ones here are, I mean, better than, you know, most places you go.
I feel like that's kind of go ahead.
Well, I'm originally from Northern Virginia, and I was really crestfallen when I moved to Arkansas, and I found out that my favorite chain restaurants up there, Roy Rogers, was a local place. It's not. It's only up there in the Northeast. So I come down here, and Roy Rogers has my absolute favorite fried chicken, and I haven't been able to eat that in 10 years. And I'm getting like, you know, the chills and the trembles. Like, I need my Roy Rogers chicken, man.
Yeah. It's another issue. Like the other issue I see with people from the Northeast coming over is, especially if they're from like the Maine area, every place is like, no matter where you go, even if it's like a native seafood place like Oregon, obviously we have a very big coastline with a lot of seafood. but nothing has crabs done the right way for anyone from Maine.
Well, Maryland, right up there near where I'm from, they have their whole blue crab and their whole idea of crabs there. Yeah, their whole culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
My thing is once I go to a place, for instance, once I have the best steak in town, I don't order steak from anywhere else anymore. I'll order something else. There for a while, I made a rule with myself. If I go to a seafood restaurant, I'm ordering seafood. I'm not going to order, something other than seafood because I'm at a seafood restaurant. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Right. Once you want a steak, you go to a steakhouse.
Yeah. Yep. And usually I will only order, whatever that place is really good at. And that's it. If I'm going to eat something else, I'll go somewhere else.
That's especially, I have a relative who will grade Chinese restaurants by their cheeseburger.
That's bizarre. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's his metric is for any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right.
Cheeseburger.
That is weird.
All right. So
I remember sitting at a Chinese buffet once, and there's a guy like 2 tables over who was just chewing out the poor waitress at the Chinese buffet because they didn't have any ketchup. I was like, what on earth are you going to put ketchup on at a Chinese buffet? I want to know.
That's wild.
Everything, you put it on everything.
Some people, that's true. Yeah. So we're entering into our last half hour here, and for those of you watching, we want to thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the stuff. At the end, we'll have links for all of our socials at the end, and of course, we'll have links in the doobity-doo below. But Mark, is there anything in particular that you want to talk about on your time here?
No, I think we just shot the breeze and had a fun time. I guess for people who tuned in because they just want any updates on Kamen America, I can tell you this, that fulfillment for the Kickstarter on Kamen America, assuming you did your survey, is going to start late this week. And once those start going out, if we get them out late this week, then we're going to launch the last call pre-orders on Indiegogo next Wednesday. And that'll probably run for about 2 weeks just to sell some overstock and give anybody who missed the Kickstarter a chance to pre-order the book. We will have something special on the Indiegogo. We will have a variant cover that's exclusive to the Indiegogo pre-orders. So anybody who's a collector, completionist, or just missed out on the Kickstarter, well, you'll have a special cover on your Kamen America 5 via Indiegogo. And then once that's done, we're going to launch, we're going to go straight into the summer book, the Black Ops Volume 5, which is Black Ops X Kamen America X Soul Finder with Douglas Ernst. So that one's, Tim actually just got the PDF into the printer today. So those books are printing now and they're going to be ready to go in the summer. So yeah, we're still moving ahead on everything.
Nice.
That's awesome. You're... we'll go spend some time here then talking about career and craft and all that fun stuff. All the boring details. Not to reiterate what every panel's ever asked you in every convention. So being a comic person now, like a lot of us, we're all working in indie comics Kickstarter area. Have you always been a fan of crowdfunding, or is this something you moved into recently, or did you start in traditional, move into crowdfunding? How has that journey into crowdfunding look like for you?
So the first books that we published, we did those direct markets. Our first publisher is actually Antarctic Press. They published Black Ops Volume 1, which was originally a 2-issue miniseries. And we did that at first. And then we decided to shift to crowdfunding, first with just Indiegogo, just to see what that was like. We did Black Ops 2, and then we did the Wall Knight books through Indiegogo. And then that worked out okay. And then we did Kickstarter for Kamen America 1, and that worked out even better. And then we decided to do the the last chance on Indiegogo. So we do a Kickstarter first that runs for about a month, and then we do a limited last call on Indiegogo for anybody who missed the boat in the Kickstarter. Because what we found out is that, I mean, I'm the same way too. I don't like to make a bunch of accounts for 10 million different websites. You know, I'll buy something from Amazon.com, but I'm not necessarily going to go and make a site, an account for BarnesandNoble.com or something. And people are like that with crowdfunding. They got a Kickstarter account or they got an Indiegogo account, and not a lot of crossover. So if we do them on both, then we're able to serve both those customer bases. Everybody has their chance. And so that ended up working out even better for us. In each one of our campaigns, we've either increased in dollar amount or we've increased in backer numbers, depending on which ones we do. So that's been growing for us. And the crowdfunding model has worked really well, but we just don't put all of our eggs in one basket on just crowdfunding. So we also have our books available digitally on Amazon for Kindle. We usually do that last. After all the crowdfunding and everything has, all those pre-orders have fulfilled. And then we also have Overstock available year-round on the iconiccomics.com web store, but they're not as cheap as pre-ordering through the Kickstarter or Indiegogo. So that's usually why we always recommend and encourage people to pre-order through the crowdfunds, because then you're going to get it at the best price. If you're getting it Overstock on the Iconic Comics web store, like months later, you're going to pay a little bit more. So yeah, we just found that, and then we also, usually about a year later, Antarctic Press will republish a saddle stitch edition of our books that just doesn't have the back matter material in it, and they'll publish that direct to markets for comic shops. So we get just about the full spread of, at least as we can think of everybody that we can serve, regardless of where they get their comics from. But it took us 4 years to get that spread. So it was a lot of growth and a lot of work.
Definitely. So you've kind of always been both a tandem writer / your own agent, publicist, publisher, and the business side of things.
I would rather just be a writer, because I'll be honest, doing hustle, that's not everybody's an A-type personality. I'm really not. So that's always the hard part. Yeah. I mean, but you got to do it. So, I worked in retail for 10 years. So I know how to put on a smiling face and go do customer service and enjoy that. We do, like I said, we do about a dozen conventions every year. So we're there at the booth and we're there selling our books and chatting it up with people and trying to draw, potential readers over towards our booth and tell them all about Kamen America and Black Ops. That's not always the easiest thing to do. If you just don't have that personality type, if you're just not an extrovert, and I'm really much more of an introvert, that's not easy. So I would say that's the hardest part. Writing's the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think every writer gets into writing because they want to write. I think it's just the issue with the publishing market as a whole now, that we can't afford to hire as many marketers as we want. Yeah. The other end of that is to become such an introvert and recluse that it becomes its own gimmick and you become Alan Moore.
Right. Or Bill Watterson or something.
Yeah.
Right. Where, people have to find a treasure map to locate you, scavenger hunt, find Bill Watterson, get an interview.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's part of the reason of why I'm also growing out the hair and maybe the beards. I'm just going to start my gimmicks. I'm just going to look like the airbrushed travel van wizard in the back of every convention hall. Yeah. I'm like, oh, it looks weird. And that'll be my shtick.
I am a very introverted person, but I've been in jobs before, much like you, Mark, where you just have to, you can't not talk to people. And so, because of that, over the years, it just, my extroverted personality, which is aside from my introverted personality, grew, and I learned. It's something some people just have to learn. And some people are just so natural and so free. And in some ways, I envy them, but sometimes, most of the time, I just wish they'd shut up. There
are people who are energized and who are fueled by socializing, and then there are those who are drained by it. I'm one of those guys.
I am
drained
one of
by it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll go out and I'll do it. Like I said, I worked, customer service for a long time in retail positions before I got, the job that I have now. And I would just go out there and do it. But every day I'd go home and just, wanting to collapse. Where some of my friends who are the A-type personalities, they would end their shift just on top of the world, and they were ready to go to the club or something. I'm like, oh man, I wish.
Well, I never knew there was a thing. That it was a thing, introverted, extroverted, and I went into teaching. And it wasn't my first choice, but I love to learn and I love to teach. Relay information. But I didn't think about that I'd be relaying it to people all the
30
time.
kids at once.
Yeah. So
I find it very hard to be extroverted when my entire goal in life is to be a grumpy old man.
Yeah. I did it for 7 years, and I tell you, they're toward probably. I mean, it really, really took a toll on me. I mean, every day I would come in off, after school, and I would have to teach night classes, and I teach at the school during the day, and I teach at night, and I teach extra classes on the weekend. And I would literally have to get in a dark room whenever I would get home, because it was just, I would have migraines so bad. But now doing my art and stuff, I don't have to worry about that as much. And as badly as I hate, the whole COVID thing, it put me at home, and I love it. I love it.
Right.
I love it. Come on, China, let's see what else you can come up with.
I made a comment to a friend when she posted like, oh, everyone was complaining because they, they had to stay home and whatnot. I was like, not artists. Like artists as a whole, we're like, we were bred for this. We were bred to sit at home and just draw pretty pictures and not do anything, not go out and talk to people. Thank you, COVID. Mine is all the bad stuff about it, but man.
Yeah.
And now I got to go out and talk to people.
I know.
Man.
Well, that's also another thing. It's also like for a lot of us, when you learn that to put on that extroverted face from work or whatever, like obviously streaming helps develop that. Also, I have a background in musical theater, which is something that you don't necessarily equate with working in comics. But you definitely learn to put on that switch, and just having that switch in general has done a terrible number on my dating life. Because
how have we not had you break into song yet?
We'll get there. But the amount of girlfriends are like, I don't understand how you act like 3 different people, just depending on. Like you just bounce back and forth, and they're like, I'm not lying to you in any way. It's just
right.
I'm Pavlov's dog. I am trained to behave.
Yep. Well, it's really tough though. It's really tough. When you, especially when you have to, and this is another thing, and I'm sure you dealt with this, Mark, is having to sell, not only talk to people, but also to sell your craft and what you do.
So awkward, It is imposing on people, and I don't like to do that. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm like so used to not trying to draw attention to myself. When I have to, I kind of feel dishonest, or like I'm, I don't want to, I don't want to say these things. And when when I have to like start actually selling, it's like a little, it's a little bit like I'm being disingenuous,
I grew up being, I grew up being humble to a fault. Like truly, I know people are like, oh yeah, I'm humble. No, actually, like even if I won a prize, like, no, can you pass that to the other guy?
Yeah. Yep.
It's
tough. It's tough. And, this is, this business asks you to be something that, most of us, we are what we are because we're not that something that it asks us to be. And that is a hustler. Yeah. I don't know about you. My craft was built on hours of being alone. Nobody messing with me, me getting away from everybody. And then now all of a sudden, in order to sell what I do or to get attention to it, I have to show it and I have to be out there. And, that's a really, really tough, weird
carnival barker thing.
Yeah. It's so weird,
Yeah.
I've been trying to get a friend of mine who does that for a living. Basically, he talks to college kids or kids about going to college. I'm like, dude, you just need to come to conventions and bark for me. That's it.
I know.
I'll pay for your ticket.
When we do conventions, one of our rules is that we don't sit down. So as long as you're standing, it's a lot easier. I mean, you're looking people in the eye. You're not like down there, and it's easier to converse with people and be more active because you're on your feet. When we go to conventions and we talk to some people, at the end of like a Saturday or whatever, everybody wants to like, hey, how was your day, whatever. A lot of the ones we notice, the folks who say like, oh, I had a really like rotten day at today's convention, we notice that they're the ones who sit all day and they have their phone out and they're not engaging with people. And like it or not, when you're at a convention, you have a booth, and the point of the booth is to show off, and part of that is also bringing people in. And so you have to be engaging, and you have to strike up conversations, and you have to talk and smile. And when people ask you like about your books, you want to tell them about your books. And I'm really bad at the elevator pitch. So I've still been refining that, and Tim is still giving me a hard time about my elevator pitch and how to summarize and describe Kamen America and Black Hops and the best way to sell it. Then we got like Doug Ernst. So the last show we did, we had the Iconic Comics booth that had Tim, me, and Doug. And Doug had his Soul Finder side. And, so I'm there trying to pitch Kamen America to people, like, oh, yeah, it's about Carly Vanders. So she's this fashionista and USO dancer who gets hit by cosmic debris and blah, 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 blah. And I give them all the whole pitch. And then Doug can size a person up, and he can tell just by looking at them if they're going to be a Soul Finder reader or not. And he can just say like, oh, hey, you want to check out Soul Finder? It's about combat veteran exorcists. And there's like, ooh. And they just like come right over it. It's like he makes it look so easy with 3 words: combat veteran exorcist, and he's got them. And we all just like, we were kind of like just so jealous of Doug that he's so good at that. And like how can I boil Kamen America down to 3 words? I want to have that magic. But it's conventions are really good training grounds for that, but you have to engage in them and you have to participate. You can't go to the convention and sit in your chair and look at your phone all day. You're never
which is another conundrum for artists. And every artist has to make their own balance. But I mean, either you're going to be there and you're going to be talking to people. I mean, sure, it's great to work on commissions and stuff, but especially ones that you get at the show. But it's best. It just my advice. And nobody's asking, but I'm telling. But if you can get simple stuff and let people know that if you're going to be drawing there, it's your quick stuff. It's not anything super involved, because if you're super involved in drawing, and there's a lot of artists that I've talked to at shows that they say, I do not draw. I do all my drawing prior and after, but the whole show, you just really have to strike your own balance with that. But I personally, I will draw a little bit, maybe if there's not a lot of foot traffic, but if there's a lot of foot traffic, you need to be going talking.
No interiors of cathedrals.
Exactly. No Wolf Hunter Tim TK stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so luckily, so Tim doesn't do all the conventions with me. Sometimes he doesn't by himself, and he has that issue. But he's got sketch cards. So if somebody wants him to draw something, he'll draw a sketch card, which he can do pretty quick. So he's not sitting there all day drawing, because it has that problem if he's sitting down there with his pencil on the sketch card and his eyes on the platform. He's not bringing people in. But if I'm there with him, then he can draw and I can carnival.
See, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. That's teamwork. Whenever I first started out, before I was a teacher, I airbrushed, and I would airbrush in Foley, Alabama. I told you I went to Lambert's down in Foley. I airbrushed at the Riviera Center. And with that job, you have to be able to sell, talk, and airbrush all at the same time. So that gave me a crash course into being able to paint, but at the same time, hey folks, what's going on?
Oh, geez.
put out, at least get something out there. And, hey, we got, free T-shirts today. All you have to pay for is the artwork, which is a scam. But anyway, just letting you know, if anybody ever tells you that free T-shirt, ask them for the free T-shirt. Anyway, but I was young. But anyway, yeah, I mean that helped me out a lot. But teamwork, man, that's awesome. If you could do that, if you could have especially the writer be there and the artist be there all the time, that's cool.
Man, I can barely chew gum and walk at the same time, Quentin.
Yeah, that helps too. Is that sometimes we got to go to the bathroom. We don't got to try and flag down a staff member to watch our booth for us or something. Or Tim can go and do a panel, and I can watch the booth. It helps too that autographs are always free at our booth because we're not famous, so we can't charge people for an autograph. But it helps that they can get the autograph from the artist and the writer, so they can get 2 autographs and feel like they've got it complete on their book whenever they buy it from us. So when we have the 2 of us there, that helps. But I'll be honest, as a writer, we're not as, unless you're Alan Moore or Kevin Smith or a celebrity writer like Neil Gaiman or something, you're not as in demand at conventions as artists. So I don't do conventions by myself. I go with Tim, or I just, don't go. And that works for me too, because it means that I always go with the second person. So I never have to do a convention by myself. Sometimes Tim has to do them by himself because he's the artist and all the pressure's on him. So sorry, Tim.
Yeah, everyone wants to pick up the art sheets or the original pencils. No one wants to come through and oh, is that a beat sheet? Oh, I see you have your summary. And so we are approaching the end of the show there. So we'll give you space again once more, Mark, to hit the promo pony. So anything you want to promote again or mention or anything that you need people to do, any surveys you need them to fill out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the surveys are the thing. And I really wish Kickstarter would just call them anything else, anything but survey. Because survey sounds like the kind of thing you get after you buy something from Amazon. They're like, how did we do? Take the survey. No, the surveys are they're the address and payment confirmation, the authorization.
Or Family Feud.
Send you the thing, yeah.
Reminds me of Family Feud. Surveys!
Yeah, so if you haven't done your survey yet, and you'd be surprised, we've still got over 100 people who haven't done it. And well, I mean, you'll get your books eventually, but you got to do those surveys. I mean, we had one person from Kamen America 2 contact us last September, I think it was, over a year late, saying hey, I never got my book. And you're you're just now noticing? And then we feel well, we just looked up your backer number and you didn't submit your survey. So please submit that survey and we will send you your book. We set it aside for you. Don't worry. But yeah, just fill out your surveys, everybody, and you're going to get your Kamen America 5s. They're going to start fulfilling later this week. And then the Indiegogo last call pre-order is going to be next week. And Black Ops X Kamen America X Soul Finder in the summer. And in between, every Wednesday, Kamen America, the web series, updates on Webtoons. And if you want to get the stuff digitally on Kindle, Kamen America Volumes 1 through 4 and Black Ops Omnibus are all available on Amazon Kindle, so you can read them digitally.
Awesome. And on
our end, cool.
Yes. And on our end at Silverline Comics, we also need you to fill out your surveys. Be like Boone at Facebook, who is doing it tonight, to get
Be like Boone.
Be like Boone.
Be like Boone.
We need to get some T-shirts made.
That's right.
Be like Boone.
We can get you Wolf Hunter #1, my brainchild, and I can get you the History Edition, where I get to flex my previous history degree muscles. And Siren's #1 remix, which of course is a redux of the 90s hit classic, I believe, from, was it Arcane? Anyways, packaged by Silverline, and Silverline retained it, so it's out again. And be on the lookout on our website for future Kickstarters.
I'd also like to say also for everybody to like and subscribe to the channel here, because we have 3 shows a week. We have the Sunday show, we have a Wednesday show, and we have, of course, the Tuesday show. And most of the time we have an artist on here. We talk about the craft comics from every which way you can think of it. from colors to letters to inking, art,
professional inker Tim,
everything. Also, and a lot of times you'll be able to see artists actually do it. Didn't have that tonight, but we normally do have artists actually drawing their comics that they're working on screen, and you get to watch and you get to hear our crazy banter about what's going on. You get to comment, you get to interact with everybody. And, if you're interested in comics, if you like to read comics, if you like to do comics, if you're interested in doing comics, I mean, hey, join up with us, subscribe, like, hit the bell icon so you get a notification when we go live.
And we also now have the fourth show, also the Comics Fu Show, which is a little less but put on by Curtis Fujita, who is a Sifu, classically trained in Kung Fu and certified to instruct, and is the only Kung Fu master on our staff, and I think we might be one of the few publishing houses that can say you have a Kung Fu master on our directive staff. So he has a show now where he talks with creators about the interconnection of creativity and martial arts. And the most recent one, he had a two-parter with Brad Graber, co-founder of Powerhouse Animations, which is insane to me that he got him. But
that's Curtis, though.
Yeah,
he's a master.
All right, Jose, Quentin, anything you guys need to plug?
Not yet, but soon. We have our Kickstarter coming up in a month or so.
I am going to get off here, and I'm going to read the script for Night Rise #1, and I will be starting production tomorrow. So there's that. Night Rise #1 is officially going to be in production in about 6 minutes.
Nice.
It's a very dope dark fantasy. I love the look of it. The
very dark.
Very dark. Yes. Jose, you don't need to plug your ARC server. You don't need anyone to bring you new materials to replace what you may have lost.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, right?
We have a platform. If you need
armor, guys, I had
set up some trade deals. All right.
Man.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. We're gonna get ready to wrap up here. So that is Mark's Twitter handle there. Mark, do you have any other handles on the other social medias, or are you there that handle everywhere?
So Pellegrini is the handle that I have on. You see, I'm not an artist, so I'm not on like Instagram or Snapchat or anything. So yeah, I'm just basically on Twitter. I am on Minds sometimes. I'm also at Pellegrini if anybody's over on Minds. We do have a promotional account. I run the one that's at the Kamen America. So if you wanted to follow an account that just posts Kamen America and iconic comic stuff, you can go ahead and follow at the Kamen America or at Kamen America. We have 2 promotional accounts. Yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. And you can follow the rest of the Tuesday crew here. We have our Instagram accounts and my Twitter account there because, again, I am a writer, so we're mostly on Twitter. I do have Instagram, but it's mostly fitness and skateboarding stuff and painting. So and a painting, yeah. I try to be a renaissance of everything that doesn't have like tangible value like math or science. Just history, fitness, and the arts. Perfect. Yeah. So you can follow us there. We already hit our promotional materials. So unless we have any ending notes, we're gonna go ahead and get ready to where'd the thing go? We're gonna go ahead and get ready to end the show.
All right.
Well, Mark, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Mark.
Great time.
Glad
to talk about everybody and Ninja Turtles.
Exactly.
Yeah, good, man.
Everything.
What is the pet that Carly has?
A capybara. His name is Badger.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, I know what that is.
All right. Well, until next time, we were asked our friends and followers to make mine
Silverline.
just like we practice. All right.
And don't forget.
Hey, I'm Alex Saviuk, and I just want to let you know, make mine Silverline.